Welcome, everyone, to another live stream. It is a rainy day here in Connecticut, and I have a lot of work to do. And so I figured I would do a follow up to the video that I did yesterday, which was really planning a rather large advertising campaign for a group of businesses in the area. And so I figured I would go live and cover a lot of the processes that I go through when I work with clients, because this might be of value to you to see behind the scenes, really behind the scenes of the process that I take. And I'm getting these ideas of like making these videos of like planning this stuff with me because it's really exciting to show you the process. And like over the next couple of weeks, you're going to see how this stuff comes into fruition. So there's a lot of stuff that I want to unpack on today's live, and you can see it directly inside of the title. It's I've got to plan a rather extensive campaign. So yesterday when I made a video, we talked about what the campaign is going to include, how I did some research, how I used SplashDash to get some demographics data, some ad budgets, and I've got all that stuff approved at this point. So now it's really just making sure that we optimize for this stuff. So I'm going to go through the presentation here, and then from there, I'm going to walk you through how I'm actually going to set up some of these accounts, my strategy and my philosophy going into a lot of this stuff. Because remember, I'm not trying to gamble the client's money. I'm trying to make sure that we're doing things that are going to get them a result. And so a lot of people that advertise, they go through a learning phase and they don't necessarily know if they're going to get a result because they're thinking about advertising incorrectly. And so hopefully I can shed some light to you today on some of the different sources that we're going to use, some of the optimizations that I'm going to do, and I'm really just going to do them live. Granted, I have good internet connection. This doesn't cut out because it's raining. And hopefully by then, if you guys take a look at that, you should get a better insight into what a real process looks like and how I approach this kind of stuff. Because I'm sure you're doing this stuff too if you're watching this. I doubt people randomly stumble across the internet and watch videos about somebody setting up ad campaigns. So this video is going to be a little technical. I just want to give you a heads up, and I'm going to move a little quicker than usual. And I'm going to do that for your sake because I know you guys like fast information, and I like fast information too. And that's just like my style. So let's get into the actual situation here. So yesterday when I went on live, I talked about the brands that I'm going to be working with. I used SplashDash to pull in some data on each of the locations, specifically the digital presence of that business, how strong their presence was, how weak their presence was. I looked at the customer satisfaction of that location, what people really valued. That's going to really curate the ads that we create in the near future. I looked and see what people actually value of that location. In this case, it was the doctor, the office, the comfort, the comfortability, the feel, the actual hygienist, how clean it was, getting a cleaning, etc. So when we actually designed the website and when we place the photos, that the person that we hired is going to be able to do so. We're going to make sure that we're hitting all of the emotional sentiments that are going to generate results. Then I looked at the market and I looked and see what was the market actually valuing, and this is what came up. And so the market values different things than the actual customers of that business will value. So it's important that we look at both. Then I looked at the goal of that location, how many reviews we're going to get. I discussed a little bit about how people have choice. And so understanding what the averages are of that area and then trying to beat those averages is only going to improve the results that come through there. Then I looked at focusing on high traffic pages. I made a case that most websites actually don't get that much traffic. And so when we redesign the websites, we're really just going to focus on the things that are going to generate us the most results. Similar to how a restaurant wouldn't put something in the desert, we want to focus on where that traffic is going because the internet is simply just a highway of information. So we want to go where a lot of that traffic is going. And in this case, as you can see on the left side, we tracked 97 URLs, but 46 of those URLs actually had no traffic. So that's almost 50%, actually a little more than 50% of the traffic is not getting anything. So we want to remove those pages. Then we came up with an ad budget. In this case, it was $6,244 per location. So we're going to be spending that on search and social ads. And I'm going to show you exactly how we're going to do that. And that's going to allow us to generate new customers based on their goals. And then we did this for other brands. This is something I did off of the live stream, but I did that similar process with the businesses that we're going to be working with, in addition to the first one that I did yesterday on the live. So you can see that the process is pretty extensive when it comes to actually planning this information. And I'd use the same process usually when I'm going to start an ad campaign. And that's typically understanding what people value about that business, what people value inside of their local marketplace, coming up with a forecast in the ad budget and how much they're going to generate as a result of running those ads. And then I can think about the placements. I rarely talk to the client about where to place their ads. That's a decision for me to ultimately make depending on their business. That's the difference between a consultant and an order taker. If you're in a working relationship right now where the customer is just telling you what to do, I can guarantee you that customer is going to walk. They're not going to use you anymore for digital marketing. Or if you're in an employer relationship where someone's just telling you what to do all day, That's not a healthy relationship. Typically, consultants advise and then they execute on behalf of the customer. So a lot of the times, I won't even ask for permission. I know what the goal is. And I talked about reverse engineering what the outcome is that you want from the working relationship and then executing based off of that. Selling is really annoying because you're just communicating. Real sales is actually just you've already started doing it. And so the ball's already going. You've already started that momentum. And as I walk you through this process, a lot of what I'm going to show you is actually documenting little pieces of momentum so that you can instill confidence in the client moving forward. So in this example, this is an existing customer. So there's going to be a lot of things that I'm going to be tweaking that they already have up and running. But in the future, if I was starting from scratch, I would be doing these things from brand new, which I've got to be honest with you, it's actually easier to do things brand new. Like when a customer comes to Develomark and they want us to work on their website, we don't offer them the option to go into their existing website and make edits because we would rather start from scratch because they're probably not getting traffic on a ton of these pages. I need to know that all of these exercises were done before we make them a website because we're not just delivering a page, we're delivering an outcome. So if you're not clear of what that outcome is and your working relationship with your client, I recommend you go back to the drawing board and try to understand what that outcome is. Now, I have a really easy way of doing this, and I call it an expectations meeting, which is actually where you have a conversation with somebody, and it might sound like this. It might sound like, Josh, thank you for taking the time. I wanted to do a quick meeting to just recap what our expectations of each other are. My expectation of you is, in this case, to give us money and pay us. Your expectation of me is X, Y, and Z. Once we have the expectations down, we actually know what the goal is. So you can understand what the outcome is. I have expectations with meetings with people once every year. And that allows me to really understand what they want out of this working relationship. So if things start to fall outside of that expectation meeting, I can go back to what we talked about and I can say, well, you said in our expectation meeting X, Y, and Z, and I hold them accountable to that. And I hold myself accountable to that. So in this case, it's to generate more customers in 3 key business verticals. And we're going to talk about what those are. In the next year, people's businesses, they change. And so just like products change, people change, businesses change. So when it comes time to redevelop the website in 2 years, 3 years, or whatever time it is from now, the perfect time to do that is when they feel their business has changed. And that's happening right now for this business. So that's why I'm covering this process right now. So let's get into the actual content. The first thing that we're going to talk about is the Google Guaranteed. So for a lot of you that have done local, you probably understand what Google Guaranteed is. Basically, it is a way for you to show up in a marketplace where customers can actually see that your business has gone through a verification process in the search results. Now, this is a really critical thing because as you can see in this area, there's only 10 of them that have actually gone through the verification process. And actually outranking them is really not that difficult because the average amount of photos in this area is only 8. So just by optimizing the photos of the Google Guaranteed in this area, I'm pretty surefire that I'm going to get results for the customer. Now, you can see in SplashDash, I can look and see what the competitor images look like in this exact area. In this case, it looks like it's a nice little business that's located, got a nice little office design. And I can go through this and get a better understanding of how this information would look. So you can see that a lot of the businesses in the local area will actually not optimize this stuff as much as possible. For this example, they're beating on ratings, so they have a higher amount of reviews in that local area, but they're actually not optimizing their photos as well as possible. Now, if I didn't research this information and I was trying to sell a business on local service ads as a placement, it'd be very difficult for me to understand why they should do it and what the strategy is behind that. That's really why I'm making SplashDash every single day, is because a lot of the times when I show up to these conversations, it's very, very difficult to get this data at your fingertips really quickly. And so there's so many different ways that you can market a business. SplashDash is really allowing me to go, if we're going to run local service ads in this area, I'm going to run this local service ads report in SplashDash, and I'm going to immediately know what I'm going to need to optimize for that location. So when we actually go to the listing of the actual customer, on the left side, if I go over to profile and budget, you can actually see that the level of optimizations that we're making for the business is going to be a lot higher than what the current competition is doing. So because this is something that we had turned off in the past, I'm going to have to actually re-verify this. But you can see that if we optimize the LSA listing and I compare it to what's currently out there, I can pretty much predict if we're going to get results compared to what's out there right now. The competition does look good with the amount of ratings and reviews, but their pictures really just aren't optimized for that. So if I look at the other results here, I can start to see that they really don't optimize this information too much. This business has a lot of photos, which is great. So you can see they've really spent time doing that inside of the local service ads listing here. You can see a similar situation, just one photo, and then a couple of photos here. So as the consumer looks at this information and they realize that they have options, they're going to pick the business that resonates the most with them. And I've been having this conversation on live multiple times talking about what AI can automate and what it can't automate. In other words, where you should put your efforts, the difference between being busy and being productive. There's a huge difference between the two. Being productive is the things that AI cannot do for you. Being busy are the things that you can use AI to enhance your workflow. I like to work in both spaces as much as possible. But the reason I go to the gym, the reason I stay healthy, the reason why I get good sleep, the reason I drink a lot of water is because typically when I'm healthy, I have more of a mindset to be productive. When I'm not healthy, I can be busy, but that's not getting me and moving me forward. You can only be busy so much in your business. You can only get so much results being busy in your business. You have to be productive eventually. So if your mindset and if your body is working on all cylinders, you're more likely to be productive. And that's why I focus on health. I ignored that for such a long period of time in my business. And I thought that I could just be busy for a long time. But I realized eventually I wasn't really going anywhere. I got to this level of success internally in my little business. And then I didn't really go places after that. And that's when I realized I need to stay healthy as much as possible because that willpower, that stamina, it comes from being healthy. And so if I'm looking at this data and I'm looking at this business, I'm going to communicate to the customer that there's an easy opportunity here for us to rank really well inside of the search results in the LSA listing, that is specifically. So as we look at this data, I've got to do some work here where I've got to actually upload a lot of the documents over for the insurances. So I'm going to do that right now. And anytime that you work with LSAs, you're trying to make sure that the profile is optimized, has the correct job types that you're looking for. In this case, it's all correct. Has photos, as you can see, that's all well optimized. Has the doctor clearly listed or the locations clearly listed. And then you have a clear service area. Now, I want to make this very clear. A common mistake that I see happening with local service ads is a business will go ahead and they will just pick every single service area possible on the planet. When in reality, that's actually not going to work. Google's not going to show your location in a bunch of different areas. So I would stay as local as possible as you can when you're doing your service areas. And that's actually a benefit too, because if you're working with a business where people rely on going to that business locally, there's a large chance that they're not going to drive long distances to see the business. So locality is really important when it comes to this stuff. And I highly encourage you to tell the business to slow down and really focus on where they're going to target that information. So let's go ahead and update the insurance document here, and then we can get this profile verified. And I've got to do a couple of more here as well. Something that I started doing too, and I think it's really important for you guys to understand this, is anytime I work with a business, even if LSA isn't something that's in our contract, I will still do it for the customer just because I found that most Google searches will show an LSA listing. So even if they have a LSA listing that is, even if they have an LSA listing that is not being paid or is not paying for the actual advertising, it's still worth it to get that business listed on there, specifically because it might show up in the organic results. So you don't have to pay to get your LSA listing set up is what I'm trying to say. And I'll actually spend time doing that because it'll allow my client to actually show up in the organic search results inside of the LSA. And if we ever want to turn on advertising in the near future, we can do that by just quickly turning on the advertising that's needed there. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and upload the insurance document, and then I'll go ahead and move on to the other locations. Now, something that's really frustrating about LSA, if you guys have done this before, you've probably been through the process of where they actually can't verify that information and you need to call. It is really easy to call them. And if you do enough LSA accounts, eventually you get a point of contact that will actually handle your business for you. And so I recommend the sooner you can just start building a relationship with the people at that area or in LSA, because if you try to do it yourself and you try to just go through this conversations and calls and things like that, your documents will get disapproved. That's just the natural process of LSA. And so if you want to avoid just calling over and over and over again, and you're spending enough money on Google Ads or you're doing this enough per time, you can eventually get somebody that you can contact over there and at the local service ads level. So I'm going to go ahead and just optimize all of that. And then from there, I'm going to go into Meta, where I'm going to start planning out a lot of the advertising campaigns as much as possible. There's a lot of preparation that goes into doing this. And so if you prepare, you're going to succeed. a lot of the times, especially for clients that are doing this themselves or have hired somebody who don't really take preparation into account, they fail. And the reason for that is because things aren't well thought through. You're advertising, but there's no strategy. So a lot of the times I tell people to slow down. And the way that I position that, the way that I frame that is I really tell them, you expect me to get X, Y, and Z result. You expect me to get outcome, right? And they'll typically go, yes, that's what I'm expecting. You understand that an outcome like that is extraordinary. And so for me to actually do this correctly, I've got to prepare things. So I'm not in a rush to launch these ads. I understand you need business, but there is a process to this. If you want the X outcome that you're looking for, this is just going to take time and I need to do this correctly. And so if I structure this information correctly, I'm going to get results. And so for Google local service ads, that first step is just making sure that they're approved in that actual listings and that you have the correct verification done. You optimize the photos as much as possible and that you do correct placement. So just a little bit about that kind of stuff there. So I'm going to upload this last insurance document and then we will go over to the actual Meta. So as we hop over to Meta, you're going to see inside of Meta that I'm just going to create some audiences, some basic audiences. And what I'm trying to accomplish here is I'm trying to create retargeting audiences so that when we launch the new ad campaigns, we are going to have an audience that's already warmed up, that's already ready for us to view their ads. Retargeting audiences are really powerful. Most of my advertising is done through retargeting because it used to be in a world where you had to pick interests and you had to do cold targeting and you had to do specific audiences and you had to understand all the algorithms. Nowadays, Facebook's AI is so good at understanding who needs to see your ads. You should really start with first-party data, which typically includes retargeting your Facebook page, retargeting your Instagram page, retargeting your Facebook pixel, or uploading a customer contact list directly through Meta so that you can start advertising to those people and avoid the waiting time. If you just do that, you're already way ahead of most people. So many Meta ad accounts I'll log into and I'll get partnership access to go into them. I'll see they haven't done this preparation work. So before I ever launch an ad, I'm doing this work to make sure we're reaching the right people. So let's see what this looks like. I don't know if I have this actual information here, but typically I can go and take a look and see retarget based on the engagement time that's on the video. That's really, really mind-blowing to you guys, just so you're aware, especially because if I want to retarget people that have watched 10 seconds of a video, I can do so. And I can click on all of the videos that are currently being displayed directly on that customer's website. Now you can see a lot of these actually have 0 views. So there's these right here that do have views. And I need you to understand the power of that. This ad, 30,000 people have seen that. Now that may not seem like a lot, but that's really a good starting point of people that we want to reach through the ads. Imagine in the past, you were able to do this in any advertising platform. This is why Facebook is worth billions of dollars. The fact of the matter is you can show people ads that have watched a certain percentage of the different videos you've posted online. That's going to allow you to reach people that have a lot of interest within your business. I showed you the 10 seconds. So if they watch 10 seconds, they will now see my ads. There's been so many times where I work with a local business and people will text me constantly saying, dude, you need to get your ads off of my feed because they know I work with the customer. And the way I'm doing that is through video views retargeting. And with video views retargeting, if you run ads as a video and generate a lot of views, you're always going to be on that person's feed because you can continue to retarget them based on how much they've watched of your video. And video is one of those things that are becoming highly, highly strategic and not commoditized. Running an AI video, that's not really going to work well, but creating authentic video for a brand and boosting it as an ad is going to be a super powerful way for you to get more customers into a business. Now, there's a lot of objection of people that think people don't watch Facebook ads, but that's just ridiculous. They do. The data shows us. You can optimize for playthrough, which will allow Facebook to only serve ads to people that are going to watch the entire thing. And then you can see how many people have watched the entire thing for pennies on the dollar. So instead of staying up all night and posting organically and filling up your organic schedule, let's just pay to get the viewership. I'm not even sure if the brain registers the difference. And in fact, I've actually thought about getting some machines that you can hook up to show people ads versus organic to see how their brain functions work, to show them the difference, or show myself the difference, I should say. Because I personally don't think that people care if it's an ad or not. I think they care, but no matter what, the brain still resonates with the name of the video, the name of the ad, etc. So what I'm saying here is organic social is basically a waste of your time. It's a waste of a brand's time. It's a waste of your time. You're a busy person. Just run ads. It's a lot easier. Now, a lot of businesses can't do that because they don't have the revenue to supplement that. So when you start, you want to do more organic. But as you start to scale, it becomes a lot more difficult to invest time in organic. So that's why we rely heavily on advertising. So as you're looking, I've selected all of those different videos. And now what I can do is I can click confirm. And then I can give that an audience name. And I'll name it ICOT Dental Care. And I'll name it Video Views Retargeting. Create audience. So when I do that, Meta's going to actually save that. So when I'm ready to run ads, as you can see, it's populating and it'll be available for future use, which means I'm not ready to advertise to those people yet. In the future, I will be. But as you can see, I can go ahead and create more audiences in here. Oh, I keep clicking that. I don't mean to click that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the actual Facebook page. So this is going to be anybody that's engaged with this Facebook page over the last 365 days. And I'll just title that Create Audience. So anybody that's actually engaged with that Facebook page is now going to see my ads over the term. Then I'm going to create another one, and I'm going to do Instagram account. I'm not sure if I have their Instagram account. I have that one. Let me see if I have the other one. There it is. So anybody that's engaged with their Instagram account over the last 365 days. Okay. Create audience. That's all set. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to do one more, but this time let's go website. Okay, so I don't have the pixel set up correctly on here, so I'm going to ignore that for now. But what I can do is I can take these 3 different data points and I can create a lookalike audience. So for all of the people that have watched those videos, if I click this and I click create lookalike, what that's going to allow me to do is it's going to allow me to target the people that have watched that video, or those videos, I should say, all of the people in that list, and create an audience of people like that. Now, that is a key strategy of when you're launching ads, because if people have watched a lot of the client's videos, and this is why it works well to work with an aged business that has a lot of traction already, you can now make an audience of people similar to the most engaged viewers of that actual campaign. So before we ever throw out an ad creative, and I'm going to show you what the ad creative is going to look like, we're going to make sure that we optimize for our different audiences. So really, really critical to do there before you ever launch an ad. So one thing I want to show you too is I could also retarget people. Let's say I wanted to do 10 seconds of people that have watched videos on a different Facebook page. So that is also something that I can do. So if you're working with multiple customers, or if you have multiple brands, you can use audiences from different profiles to target people as well. Why is that important? Well, if you're working with 2 local businesses and they don't compete, or you have 2 different businesses and they don't compete, you can share audiences with each other for advertising. And that would be really good because there could be customers that overlap or businesses that overlap. For example, a hair salon and a med spa could share the same customer. So a hair salon and a med spa could come to an agreement where they're okay sharing audiences to use for advertising targeting. That's how you're going to get results, is by you leveraging these audiences. So when I do that, I can go in here and I can start picking all of the different videos to retarget with. So as I start to get these, you can see these have a lot more videos. So that's going to allow me to target much better amount of people. There's going to be more data for me to actually use. So as I start selecting these, you can see the video count on the right side is going to well exceed what the newer page has, because the one I just started with is a newer page. So it's not as aged as the one below, as you're seeing now. So I can go ahead and start doing that. And then I can start to build more of an audience of people to actually target, so that when I launch my ads, Meta's algorithm is going to automatically know who I'm actually going to target. So I'm going to confirm that. And then I'm going to name this a different one. By the way, guys, these businesses are owned by the same people. So that's why I'm sharing the audiences this way. If I wasn't, I would highly recommend getting permission to do that. And so if I go here, I can save that, and then I can create audience. So now I have a nice amount of different audiences that I can use for advertising. So when I launch the ads, when I launch the creative, I'm not going to be flying in the dark, and I'm actually going to get results pretty quickly. And so when we do the ad creative, I'm going to use a lot of the different creative that's really already created here. As you can see, we'll create the creative for 3 different sizes. There will be a right column, there will be a story, and then there will be a square format. Each and every ad typically has an offer. and then that offer goes to a landing page that speaks directly to that person's or that business's offer. If you can, by the way, too, try to personalize it by the month. So if you actually go to the landing page of this business that's currently set up, and keep in mind we're updating it, so there's going to be some changes that are going on here. I like to personalize a lot of the offers based on the month to give it some urgency. So when they click through that ad, they'll go to a page that looks like this, and then there will be an offer that's specific to that month. This allows you to keep the creative fresh and allows the user to see that it actually is limited time. And typically we'll update these offers. I made a part about this on my last stream where I was talking about why I personalize the offers based on the month. So with that being said, let's do this again. I'm going to do this with a different business profile. I'm going to go ahead into a different business, and I'm going to create some audiences so that when I launch the ads, they're going to be really relevant to that. So as you can see, this one already has some pretty good ones. So if I go to create audience, custom audience, I go to videos. I'm going to do people that have watched 3 seconds. And then I'm going to start selecting the videos here that actually have some viewership. So let's see if there are any that have a lot of viewership in here. Okay. 6,300, 6,600, 800, 900, 5,700. That's a lot of people we can retarget to continue to start seeing our ads. 8,500, right? 2,400, 2,300, 8,300. There's a lot more viewership on this page. So when I launch these ads, I'm going to retarget the people that are actually watching these videos. And that's going to allow me to skip the entire learning process in Facebook ads and just reach these people right away. By the way, a lot of these businesses are targeting people that have older demographics. And that is exactly what Facebook is good for. And that's the thing, guys. You can't wait for someone to search for you. That's how I pitch Facebook ads is if you wait for somebody to search for you, you can't grow your business that way. You've got to be out and about going to get those people. So let's do this one again. All right, create audience. Once that's done, I'm going to create a lookalike audience. Similar process here. Okay. So there you go. Now we have both businesses have some nice targeting. I'm going to do 2 more businesses and then I'll be done with the meta part. And then on the next live, I'll be showing you how I actually launch the ads because I'm trying to prepare right now. This is rather a large project, so I really want to make sure everything is in the right place. Something I want to show here, though, is we did upload their customer list directly to the ads. Now, just some context, just so you guys are aware because of that. If you upload a customer list directly to Meta, Facebook's going to actually go out and find who those people are. And if they have a Facebook profile, they're going to start seeing your ads. The beauty of this is if that person was already your customer, it's likely that Facebook's going to find more people like them or more people similar to them. That's the power of uploading that customer database. When you do so, you just have to make sure it's in a CSV format. There's first name, last name, email, and phone number. Those are the primary identifiers. And that's going to allow Facebook to actually find those people on the platform. When I tell businesses that, they stop their idea that the phones are listening to you. The phones aren't actually listening to you. The ad platforms have just gotten so good at predicting what you want. It's not that they're listening to you. It's that people like myself are uploading customer databases into Meta, into Google, and then it's targeting you and people like you based on interests. So if you want to skip the entire learning process, this is a really good way of doing so. And most businesses, if not every business, has a customer database that you can actually upload directly inside of Meta. So before we actually start advertising for somebody, we're already thinking about how can we upload customer databases directly inside of Meta. And that's going to allow us to really nail down that information. So in that being said, let's go through the next business, which is going to have a lot more data. So I'm going to switch over to businesses and I'm going to go to Modern Day Smiles. Keep in mind, they have 2 locations. When we run ads, we treat them as 2 different businesses. And the reason for that is because there is going to be different credit cards that they want billed on those locations. There's going to be different advertising spends based on your ad budget simulation. There's going to be different creative. So I like to separate things as much as possible. Now, some people might think that that's a lot of work. You might as well just do it under one ad. If you do that, just know I'll be ashamed of you because all of this comes down to preparation. This single moment of getting this business to win online comes down to preparation and keeping things organized. I am an organization maniac. I want things titled. I want files titled. I want things encoded. I want things separated. I want different accounts for everything because it allows us to make tracking way better. So let's go back to the actual data here. And I'm going to do that same process just with a profile that has probably a lot more data. So let's take a look at the audiences that we have here for one of the clients that we're going to be running with as well. And so let's take a look. That's going to load. Okay. So you can see that there is website retargeting, retargeting lookalike, customer databases, website retargeting, Facebook page retargeting, video views, and list. So I really don't have to do much for this business because it's already working really well. Let's go look at the next one. That one's ripe to start advertising on, so that'll be really easy. So this one here is same kind of situation where I have all of this information already in place. And from there, when I launch ads, when I click on campaigns, you're actually going to see that a lot of the ads that are running right now are already targeting those people. So this is what a good ad would look like. You would have, and this is what I'm going to set up for the businesses that we're working with. You're going to have the business, the month, the offer, the clear call to action, and then a call to action there. Now, you're going to want to run multiple ads to the same audience with the same offer. And I've got to make it clear, guys, that if you're running multiple ads, you want to keep the offer the same, but you may change up the headlines. It's really difficult to work with a business that has 15 different offers. In fact, most businesses should have one key core offer, because when you show one person 15 different ads for the same offer, you're much more likely to get success, and they can gauge your success based off of that offer. So a lot of the times, what a perfect offer to me would look like is this October, right? So you state the month, customers that do get X, Y, and Z. And then you have some scarcity around that. That's what I found to be the best. And then every month, as a new month starts, we confirm what the new offer is, if there is one, or we just simply change the name of the actual month. So all of these ads, as you can see, are going to the customers in our retargeting list. So people have been seeing these ads for a relatively long time, which is a good thing. You want people to consistently know that this business exists and that what they can do at that business is valid. Because a lot of the times, people don't know you exist, and you can't expect people to just trip into your business and they know you exist and buy from you. That's not a realistic expectation of a consumer. So just wanted to show you guys that we created audiences of what the ads are actually going to look like. Now, when you create these ads, I recommend that you do them really short and sweet. You use the sentiment analysis directly inside of SplashDash to figure out what's important and then focus the ad copy directly based off of that, because you're going to target what people actually care about, which is really, really critical. So along those lines, we really want to make sure that those ads are performing well. So as I go through the different ad accounts, I can see that all of this is pretty well optimized right now, and the audiences are good. So as we create new ads, I'm really not going to have to think about how the retargeting works. If I wanted to update one of these actual lists here, I can go to this and I can click edit, and then I can go to see which videos were selected. As you can see, a lot of videos were selected. But if I go back here and I look and see which ones are currently they're new, I can add to this audience. And the beauty of that is if this account is already advertising to a specific set and you're using this audience, the ads will actually update. So it's targeting the newer video viewers, which is really useful. So I don't have to do this myself. So I can confirm that and I can update that audience, as you guys just saw. Now that that's updated, those people are going to see those new ads that are coming in from that business, which is really, really exciting. So that is kind of the process for the meta ads, right? It's using the customer's data, ideally their first party data, and then utilizing that information to launch your ads really quickly. And then from there, adding more creative to it. There's never enough creative is what I'm trying to say here. If you can do 40 different graphics for one offer, you're going to succeed a lot more than if you do one graphic for one offer. And there's actually science behind that, and it's called ad fatigue. And I like to explain this to our clients often, that ad fatigue is the decline in engagement when an advertisement due to repeated exposure. So the way that we measure that inside of Facebook is actually through something called the frequency. So if an ad has too much frequency, generally speaking, it's time to replace it. And all that means is somebody has seen the ad way too many times. Meta will actually tell you when that person has seen it too many times, which is really useful. And I'll kind of show you a real case scenario here with an ad that we're running right now, as you can see. So a lifetime, if I just go to maximum, right? This ad, one ad has spent $3,793, and it's reached 370,000 people and it's gotten 7,000 clicks to the website. If I go here and I turn on the frequency tab, you'll see that the average person has only seen this ad 5 times, which actually isn't that high. Generally speaking, when you start getting to the multiple double digits, that's when your frequency scores will probably, Facebook will tell you have ad fatigue, which is people have seen this ad too many times. When we run ads like this and they're so consistent, our clients will actually get phone calls. And I have several of them recorded, which are really funny because I record all of the calls from call tracking. And people will say, I've been seeing your ad way too much. It's actually getting annoying. Can you please take it down? That's generally a good sign that you have too much ad fatigue. Some other signs of ad fatigue is your cost per click is rising, your impressions are not delivering, or you're not getting any more video views. So eventually the well is tapped. Generally speaking, I like to replace ad creative once a quarter for the customer. So this means going to their business, getting new photos, getting new videos, and then replacing that ad creative as much as I can. So if I look at this ad account that we're running right now, you can see that a lot of the ads that are currently active, there's 1, 2, 3, there's a ton of active ads right here. And the reason for that is because I want to make sure that we don't get ad fatigue. So think about if you were in a local area like you were in this with this business. And I want to show you all of the ads that are running right now so you can get a good framework of how to actually do this. So if you were one person in this local area and you were on average seeing 7 of our ads, as you can see on the bottom right, the creative there, you're going to see a bunch of different creative for this business. Eventually, there's no way you're not going to know that this business exists because the business is always going to be on your feed. You're always going to be seeing new information from it. And it's always going to be having similar call to actions, bringing people directly to the website. And we just do this once per quarter and launch all of these ads and supplement with the website and the SEO. And you're pretty much guaranteed results. I'm at the point in my career, I think, where I can guarantee you the results. A lot of marketing people are scared to do that. And the reason for that is because they don't follow the critical preparation that's needed to actually be able to make a statement like that. But I'm telling you guys right now, if you follow what I'm saying using SplashDash, doing the competitive overview, doing the sentiment analysis, doing a nice ad budget recommendation, making the website, keeping it to 1 or 2 pages, running the ads like I'm showing you, making sure that you're doing the retargeting, there's no way you can't guarantee results, depending on the business that you're working with. Ideally, the business is established, has good reviews, above market average, an older domain, etc. Client selection is much more important than you guys think. Client selection, as I was saying in a similar stream, is called the swimmer's body illusion. That swimmers are going to be good at swimming because they already have the swimmer's body. You can't just make that. Basketball players are born tall. You can't just get taller. So obviously, a talent agent is going to pick somebody that's probably going to succeed. Most people's successes are actually luck. We tend to put these crazy ideals on people's successes, but a lot of the times it's actually just luck. People don't like hearing that, especially as an agency and client relationship. Your focus is to pick the right customer. Ideally, it's a customer that you're passionate about, you believe in, and that already has some good metrics. If you're picking a customer that doesn't have these things, you're taking a gamble and you're taking a risk, especially if you guarantee them results. So for me, the perfect situation to guarantee a customer results is are they doing better than their average in the market? Do I believe in their brand and service? And do they have all of the data that I'm going to need to launch successful ad campaigns? Attribution becomes very difficult, but their revenue and their leads increase. So I want to show you another ad account where attribution is really difficult. But we've noticed when we turn this stuff off, it stops performing. And that's like one of the miracles of this is if you take a look at this campaign, let's go to maximum. If you look at this campaign, this is a video that we did for a client, right? Right here. And this video was about apartment moves. So this was a really cool ad because it was really focused on millennials that were looking to move into their own place, or Gen Z that just got a new job and they wanted a moving company. So the ad was really targeted on those people. Now, there is no place on the planet that you can get 1.3 million through plays for $15,000. That is a ton of people that have watched that entire video in and out for that much. And look at how many people this video reached. This video reached, as you can see, it reached the typical person 21 times. That means someone heard that ad on average, individually, 21 times. That's not to include all of the other ads that they're seeing from that same profile. Imagine if you saw a brand's ad 21 times. Actually, sit down and think about it. What advertiser have you seen ads all the time for? For me right now, it's Granger, which is like some company that I would never use because I'm not a lineman. But I keep getting their ads on YouTube because I have my personalization off, so I don't get relevant ads. However, I know their name now simply because of frequency. The creative almost didn't matter in that case. I just need to hear the brand name so many different times. That's the power of frequency. Now, I want to show this to you guys too, because just because we spent money on this ad doesn't mean we didn't reap reward from it. Because now, as I was showing you before, I can retarget 1.3 million people that have watched that ad. So if I were to go into audiences, as I was showing you before with the other ad accounts, and I were to go to create custom, and I were to go to video next, and then I were to pick people that have engaged with that ad at least 95% of the video, and I were to pick the actual video that I was just showing you, the apartment moves, I can now go in here and pick all of the videos that are currently getting views, as I will do so. This one has 100,000, 1,600, 280,000, 4,100. There it is. 1.3 million people that have watched that video 95% of the way through. Do you understand how powerful that is for a brand? It's giving me the goosebumps. That is insane. That means I can show those people an ad that says, call now, get an estimate, and some special offer. And they're more than likely to convert because if they're watching 95% of your content, that probably means they're qualified. So 1.3 million people we can retarget at 95%. You guys could probably tell how addicted I am at doing this because I get excited when I see that. So I'm going to create an audience that's going to give us 95% of the way there. And then I'm going to launch ads that are going to target those people. And I know those are more likely to convert because they're enjoying our content. So I'm going to confirm these are people that have watched 95% of the video. So the targeting here is only going to be that 95%. And that's going to be a hot audience, I would say. So I'll just do this, and then I'll just title it 95% video views, and then create audience. When that's done, I'll also create a lookalike audience. Boom, done. Facebook makes it so easy. Now, when I go into Meta campaign and I start to create a campaign, let's say I was editing this one, and I go to the actual ad set. Just so you guys are aware, the ad set is where you can edit a lot of this stuff. And I go down to the actual budgeting and the targeting, you can see that I'm implementing all of the custom audiences at once. That's the beauty of it, is that you can implement a bunch of custom audiences at once. I don't do the targeting anymore, is what I'm trying to say. I'm vibe advertising. I'm lazy. I let the AI do it, and it gets results. And people don't like, oh, somebody's never called us from Facebook. And they think that. But when we turn off the Facebook ads or when we turn on the Facebook ads, they'll start to get results. And so it's not magic. It's not random, right? It's advertising. It's targeting. So just want to make that very clear. Super, super, super powerful information on using the video views retargeting because that's what's going to get you results. So that's a really good example of frequency going through to the website. Now, I send the traffic directly to the website itself. Some people don't do that. Some people keep it on the actual ad. But in this case, a lot of that traffic came directly through the website. Now, there's been a lot of conversation about SEOs talking about website traffic is actually a ranking factor. Whether you believe that or not is up to you. I have no idea what's a ranking factor. I stopped trying a long time ago. What I'm focusing right now on is getting this brand to be unique. There is a famous quote by Michelangelo, and I've been researching Michelangelo a lot lately because his artistic ability was divine. And it was basically the Pope asked him, how in the world did he do the statue of David? And he said it was simple. I just removed everything that was not David. So that's how I'm approaching a lot of our brand conversations now is I'm really trying to make sure what's going to make that business stick out. So when I send people directly to the website, everything is consistent. The creative on the ad, what's on the landing page itself, and I just send them directly to the website. I know some people send people to a landing page that has stripped down information, But there's nothing better than just sending it to the direct website where all that information is already coming across anyways. And that's going to allow me to track that stuff. So as I go through the actual form submission and I optimize the form to be personalized, in this case, I'm using Typeform. As I go through here, what you're going to see is, that's not a correct phone number, by the way. What you're going to see is in here that I can actually put the I'll actually put the promotion directly inside of the actual form. So as you can see, the ad is personalized all the way down to the conversion point, which is really critical. So in this case, it's using fall savings, save X amount per month. This is only in October, rather than saying get a free estimate. You want to be clear and descriptive with your call to action. So I'm going to show you one more example, and then I'm going to stop talking about Meta. But you guys are getting the gist. Use your customers' data, use video views retargeting, create ads that's going to allow you to increase data, get a client that has a more aged Facebook profile, and then start your ad retargeting. I'm going to show you another really good example of this. So this is a gym that I work with, and I actually go to this gym. It's my favorite gym, and it's called Lift Performance. And so when they came to us, they had too much stuff going on. They didn't have a clear call to action. They didn't have a clear offer. They didn't have a clear website. So now we've really condensed everything down to just one page on their website. Imagine just creating one pages for all of your clients' websites. Your life would get a lot easier. You wouldn't have to think about all these different pages. You wouldn't have to do this extraneous sitemap process. You would just focus on one page. Now, that's a sin in SEO, right? Well, I don't really care about that anymore. I'm focused on what they can bring to the bank, where they can make more money, and how they're going to get results. That's what they care about. I don't send position tracking reports to clients anymore. I don't send ranking statuses to clients anymore. The only time I'll use that data is in the sales process. That's exactly why I created SplashDash, is so that you can get better deals and you can plan the accounts. When it comes to the monthly reporting, I'm looking at one thing: people's names that are coming through the website. The clicks, the impressions, who cares? How did Jenny do? Did Jenny sign up? Why wasn't Jenny a good lead? I'm looking at names, not numbers. So I want to talk about that just a little bit with this, because this is a really good example of that. So if you go to the Meta Ads campaign, you'll see that we're following a very similar structure. Now, the spend here is significantly less than the spend that we're doing for most of the businesses. So you can see here in the campaigns level, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, we have a lot of campaigns going on, and I've got to make a payment here. So the ads are actually, okay, they're still running, but I've got to make a payment. And as you can see, over the last 30 days, we've spent about $2,000. Now, I want to make this very clear to you guys. People think that gyms aren't profitable businesses. And that's a very big mistake, because people traditionally are thinking incorrectly about advertising. Let's run the numbers really quickly, just as an example. If I were to do advertising for this business and their average customer paid, in this case, $200 per month, okay? So that's how much they're going to pay. And then the customer stays for 36 months on average, which is their actual retention rate. Okay. Looking at that information, that is going to calculate the lifetime value. All right. So breaking down those numbers to you, if I were working with you, I would ask you, again, the question of how much should I spend on ads? The answer is, how much are you willing to pay for a customer? In this case, we're going to find out that number right now based on your lifetime value per customer. If you're thinking that the return on investment is the one-time payment of $200, you are flawed in your advertising thinking. You are flawed in the way that you think you can acquire customers. Your thinking needs to be, how much am I willing to pay for somebody that's going to give me $200 a month for 36 months? Once I said that in the conversation, they were comfortable spending money on ads. If you said you get one customer and you make $200, they're not going to see that information. You see, all of this is how you frame the data. So let's take a look at that. So if I want to calculate the lifetime value for this customer, I'm going to take the average revenue per month that they make, and then I'm going to take the average retainer. So if I said to you, you're going to make $7,200 every time we get a customer, how much are you willing to pay for a customer? Well, that answer is a lot different than if I framed it as you're going to make $200 with these ads. That's a lot different. How confident are you as a business that your typical customer is going to stay for 36 months? If you're confident, this is going to work really well for you, which goes back to the swimmer's body fallacy, why you want to work with businesses that are going to already succeed or have high lifetime values. Now, every business is different. So let's simulate a couple of other situations before I go into this ad campaign to show you why it's working. So if I go to now, I'm going to do this. I'm going to say for Develomark, which is my company, if average customer pays me $1,024 per month, and the average customer stays for, let's say, same amount, calculate the average lifetime value. So for my agency, let's take a look at the numbers, and I can tell you what I'm willing to pay for that. So anybody on the stream can easily send me an email and sell me advertising to get me more agency clients, because how would I say no to this if I trust you and you can do well? So as that information comes in, you're going to see that Develomark, my agency, which takes on local service-based businesses in Connecticut and helps them get more customers, I have a $36,864 lifetime value per customer. What a different conversation that is than saying, I'll get you a $1,000 a month client. In my head, I'm thinking, that's actually not that lucrative. I'm going to spend $5,000 a month and I'm going to get a $1,000 a month client. That doesn't make sense. But if you position it as lifetime value, your conversation entirely changes, because I'm willing to pay $10,000 to get that customer. Now I have a budget for the video. Now I have the budget for the photo. Now I have a budget for the ads. Now I have a budget for gifting. Guys, that's how you do this, okay? And so you want to frame it that way. So let's go into it. So if we know they're going to make $7,200 per customer because of their average retainer and their average lifetime value, and I know that we're running ads, I'm comfortable spending $2,000 per month to acquire 3 to 5 customers. And that's exactly what we're doing. Now, just looking at some of the data, 3,835 clicks from a $2,000 spend. Imagine you waited to get 3,853 clicks from SEO. Imagine, you'd probably be dead. You would probably not even be alive anymore. You'd probably be in a grave somewhere decomposing. But the fact of the matter is, advertising lets you do it extremely quickly at a lower budget. And as you frame it this way, as I'm kind of showing you, you can actually get more people to commit to doing this and help them, educate them, frame this so they're not scared of it. But if you do this and you don't go through this strategy, you should be in jail, because that should be criminal. So if I look at their actual website performance inside of Google Search Console and I go to the full report, let's think about that for a second. The last 12 months, this website has received 2,670 clicks from Google. That means for a whole year, that business has gotten 2,600 clicks from the search engines. Not to mention, most of those clicks were probably from their name. So people searching their name. And I can easily find out that information just by going into Search Console. So on the right side down here, I can quickly find out how many of them were actually from their name. So believe it or not, they got way less than that from real people searching. So if I go to Meta and I see that they've already gotten 3,835 clicks this month alone, well, are you going to wait a year to get that many clicks through your website? You can never grow that way. And guys, I'm not saying SEO is not important at all, because I love SEO. It's like what I do. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. What I'm trying to say is the strategy of the future is holistic. And it's understanding that the website is really a place for the customer to complete a purchase and to complete a lead form. It's not a place for them to do all of this discovery. They're doing discovery offside of the website. They're doing discovery on things like this YouTube Live. They're doing discovery on things like a Facebook ad. They're doing discovery on LinkedIn. They're doing discovery in email. The website is where they go to complete an action. And I'm going to show you exactly how we do that. So I want to be very clear. Your business cannot grow waiting for people to find you. That is not a predictable way. And in fact, Mr. Customer, your website's received 2,600 clicks in the last 12 months. Your Facebook ads, not even talking about Google ads, we haven't even gone there yet. Your Facebook ads has already received 3,800 clicks. And if you get one customer, you're going to make $7,800 of that customer over the next year. So this all sounds good in promise, right? This all sounds good in premise, I should say. When you start running the ads, you're going to want to validate this stuff on a long-term basis. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. You see, people will continue to spend money on ads the more small validations and the more small momentums you can show them. If you turn ads, say your job is done, go take a nap, and don't talk to the customer for the next month, they're not going to be convinced that it's working. Attributing success to ads, customers are very not open to. They will attribute everything that's not you. They will attribute the success of their business because of their hard work. They will not attribute success because of you. The moment they can attribute it to something else, they will. So you have to constantly remind them that what you're doing is having an impact on their business. Consider this. If the customer was telling you how much money they were making from your services, oftentimes it's a lot. You just don't check it enough. And they keep saying, "Hey, Josh, I'm making so much money from your service. Thank you so much for doing this for us. We're killing it right now." What are you as a digital marketing person going to think about? You're probably going to think about raising their price. So customers aren't going to attribute their success to you often. You have to be proactive in doing that. So I'm going to show you exactly how I do that. And it's a really genius way of doing it because it allows you to focus on the conversation. Now, guys, again, anything that I'm talking about right now is only for local and it's only focused on my specialization. Everything outside of this really makes no sense. But if you're working with local service-based businesses, you've got to pay attention right now because this right here could make or break if your campaign is successful and if you keep the customer. Because in order for me to get that lifetime value that I talked about, which was the $36,000, I need to make sure that I retain that customer. Now, retention doesn't happen by accident. Retention happens by making sure that you have a clear process of communicating to them what's working and what's not. For the gym to retain this amount of money from the customer, because customers could leave month 12. For them to retain that, they're going to have to keep those people coming into classes all the time. So they've got to make it engaging. They have a lot of work to do when they acquire a customer. Just think about that for a second, right? If you get a customer, your work is not done at all. The work hasn't even started yet. For you to keep that customer for 36 months, that's where you make your money. You don't make your money keeping the customer for a month. You don't make your money keeping a customer for 3 months. So the more you can instill to them small momentums, the more success you're going to have. So I'm going to show you how I do that with Lyft. So with Lyft, we made a website and we made the call to action very simple. Book your free assessment. Now, if you guys have read scientific advertising, and I think my face is going to go gray if I say that word one more time on my channel, but I really, really, really can't stress it enough. It's a simple book that was written by Claude Hopkins, and it talks about a lot of the scientific advertising studies that he did that allowed him to create a lot of the big brands in his time. There's a free PDF that you can download on the internet if you don't want to buy the book and you're too cheap. The book's like $4 because it's public domain, but this book has changed my life when it comes to digital. However, if you look at the call to action, there's a key thing. Everything about the website is focused on that call to action. Anything that we're doing in terms of marketing leads people to that one specific call to action. In this case, it's booking a free assessment where the user comes in and they get an assessment of their mobility, and that turns into an actual customer that signs up for a free trial. Then there is the actual payment that goes through. So we have a typical or an actual process of the conversion funnel rather than just having some really standard call to action. Now, in this case, the stickiest call to action that you can do is actually getting people to fill in that calendar of that business. So in this case, it's actually embedding that calendar directly on that client's website so that when somebody comes in, they actually are going to go through that. Now, when I talk about small momentums and I talk about making sure that we're communicating that the advertising is working, generally speaking, as you can see, I'll take a look and read all of the contact form submissions that come through this actual assessment thing here that's going through the website. Just think about that for a second. Imagine your customer was hearing from you on an ongoing basis of you talking about the names that have come through their website. In this case, it can be, I don't know, Cheryl. So I'm going to ask, how did that go? Did she work out? What was wrong? Did you get data? Glad to hear you had a success. Never before has the customer asked me about how much traffic is my website getting. Never before has this customer asked me about how many clicks am I getting. Never before has this customer asked me how many impressions are we getting? Are the ads working? They're not asking me those questions because I'm being proactive with the people that are coming through the website. And in fact, you can see here that I've read all of these. So I'm actively going in there and reading all of the submissions that come through the client's website because that is the best way that you're going to learn what's going on with your ads campaign. Aren't you curious as like a little scientist with a white coat on when you run an ad, what's going to work and what's not going to work? Aren't you genuinely curious if what you're doing is providing value? Well, clicks isn't going to do that for you. It's going to be the names. So I've learned to actually take the names, all of the customers coming in and make that the conversation of the customer. Next time you have a meeting, don't show stats, show names. Here are the people that came through the website. how did these conversations go? And watch the transformation of how you understand digital marketing start to change slowly but subtly. You see, very critical. So as I go back here, one of the things that we're doing here is, of course, we're running multiple ads at one time. Now, the ads that you're going to want to run are going to be focused on the sentiment analysis that's been shared. So for this case, when we were doing the sentiment analysis for Lift Performance Gym, the key thing that we were finding is this idea of ungym, meaning people don't like the gym and they don't like the options that they have at the gym. So as you can see right here, the ads that we're running are really short videos nailing down scripts that are similar to what we found in the sentiment analysis. When we look at the sentiment analysis, you can see that people really liked the founders, right? So obviously using the founders in each and every single one of the videos. If you're working with a business that wants to put other people in their videos, tell them no, because those people churn. And so if you want to create evergreen ads for your customers, there's two ways to go about it. One is to use actors, which I can make a video in the near future of how we hire paid actors in a local area to make ads. And then the second one is using the founders. Very rare are the founders going to leave that business. So that's why we really focus in on that. So when we looked at that too, we looked at the brothers. That was a key thing. So they're in all of the ads, the community, right? The place, the fitness, etc. When we looked at the sentiment of the actual marketplace, so if I actually ran a sentiment analysis inside of SplashDash and I did gym and I did Southington, what we were actually finding is that this ungym process, which basically means this is not your typical gym. We saw that when it came to negative, meaning what people think negatively about this topic, we saw that people actually did not like the typical manager at a location. So in this case, people did not like managers. They didn't like the contracts. And you'll see on the landing page, one thing that we were really specific on is that this is not a contract. We hit home on that. They didn't like the amenities, etc. What they did like, however, was the equipment, how clean the space was, the people that were there, the classes, right? How they felt, understanding their goals, the community, the facility, the trainer. So in all of our ads, we utilize this information to our advantage. And the way that we did that was in all of our creative, as you can see, we focused in on the key things that we knew people were going to like. A, the no commitment. B, the coaches. And C, the clear call to action. And I was bringing people directly to the website. So as you can see, there's 14 ads currently going off. 14 different times that the typical person can discover this business or brand. So if I change this to all time, which is maximum, you're going to see that in all time, we've reached 870,000 people. And if I look at frequency here, you can see that the average person has seen our ads 10 times. So if you didn't know Lift Performance Gym existed in the past, you do now. That's the key with these ads. We're using a healthy mix of it too.
Most gyms expect.
I would not assume that people want to watch videos on Meta. That is extremely frustrating to hear from customers and from other digital marketers. People are going to consume the content that they want to see at the right time. So you have to have a variety of them. That's why I do static photos with no context. I'll do creative that has graphic design elements around that. I'll do short form videos. I'll do long form videos. The key here is working with somebody that can go out and get the photos and get the videos. And that's the exact type of people that DevelopMark is engaging right now for our clients and for ourselves. In fact, I thought about actually transitioning not transitioning, but offering a recruitment service where I take digital marketing people and place them into different businesses and charge a percentage to do that. I'm doing a trial run right now where I'm doing that with a few people, and it's actually working really well. So I know that I can train people. I know that I'm confident in leadership. I just can't be at those people's businesses all the time. So it's great if they can hire somebody in-house to give us the creative that we need. Now, in scientific advertising, one of the key things that Claude Hopkins says is on every website, you need a sales pitch because the website in itself is a sales presentation mechanism. So for every website, we get clear on the sentiment analysis. We write a script based on the sentiment analysis. In this case, it was founder-led, coach-driven, no contracts, month-to-month, community-led, free assessment. Based on all of those sentiment keywords that I show you in the past here, we wrote a script based off of all of that, and that goes directly to the main website. Before that person even gets to the website, though, they're seeing all of the different creative that we're showing on Meta and on Google. And as you can see, a lot of the copy that we're using is specifically focused on the sentiment that we know people are going to care about based on doing that research. I don't have to talk to their customers. I don't have to talk to and listen to their phone calls. I don't have to read their form submissions when I start working with them. I know based on fact what's working and what's not working, just based on what their market values. So showing multiple ads to one person is really, really important, and this allows you to avoid ad fatigue. So that's really critical why it's important to get photos and videos for that business directly on that location. Now, similar to this, if I go over to the audiences tab, typically when you're running an ad account, especially for a couple of months, you may want to make an exercise out of this of going into their audiences and actually creating these custom audiences as we go, because you can see the videos are there and there's a lot of current like targeting stuff going on right here. But if I go to this here, I can update this based on all of the video views that they're currently getting. Those ads that we placed that I was showing you before, it's been a while since we've placed these ads. It's been a couple of months. So now would be a good time to actually start refreshing this stuff, because the average person has seen something so many times. Refreshing the ad creative is absolutely critical for this type of situation. So that's the funnel. They click through an ad. I'm sorry, let me go here. Let me just show you the funnel as a consumer. All right. Looks like I lost some connection here. Let me share my screen. Okay. So they see the ad. They click through. They land on the page. They see the clear call to action. They click the call to action. They see the clear information of when they can book this information. Then I analyze this information and I make these names a clear point of conversation when I talk to the customer. Just doing some basic math, if we got, I don't know, in this case it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 forms, or 11, I'm sorry, booked assessments. So if I got, and this is just the assessments, this is not even phone calls. I haven't even showed you guys the phone calls yet. If I got 11 bookings, and by the way, this is October 13th, we still have a whole month to go, and I close 33% of those, right? So just so you guys understand the math there, if we got 11 leads in this case, which we did, and these are real leads too, by the way, guys. These aren't like people just filling out a contact form, just like mess around. These are people that have scheduled the time and committed. That's why I love using calendar functions. We had a form on the DevelopMark website for quite some time, and we were getting just like a ton of spam on it. So now if you want to actually go on the DevelopMark website, you have to get started, you have to fill out a form that also goes to a calendar, because we found that it gets a lot less spam. And so what we're finding is when we do that, they're like actual leads. So if you think about that information, if they close 33% of those, which most businesses will close 33% of those, they're going to get, 3 customers. Now, if you think about this, they're going to get 4 closed deals based on the average return on customer lifetime value, right? Based on this, what is the LTV? And I spent this month, I don't even know what it is. I think I've spent $1,000 on ads. Just think about that math for a second. This month alone, they've gotten 13 leads. They're going to close 4 of those. That's going to generate them X amount in lifetime value. I've spent $1,000 on ads plus DevelopMark's fees, whatever that is. So if you look at this, that's how you position advertising returns. I really hope this is making sense, because if you position it this way, you're going to be able to sell advertising in a way different way that you've been able to do before, and you're going to be able to deliver that advertising in a way different way and communicate it much better. So just by looking at the stats, if you close 4 deals this month, and I can actually just give you the real number. Let's go take a look. So this month it is okay, this month, as you guys can see, we've spent $804. So I'm actually going to recalculate. So we've spent $804 this month on ads, as you guys saw. Okay, so that's not correct. But let's just go based on these numbers so I don't have to prompt this again. 4 customers, that's how much you're going to make an LTV. That's 147x return. That is insane. Why wouldn't anybody do that? But this is working because I followed scientific advertising. I didn't just throw out ads. I followed the process that I showed you on this video. And if you're watching this now and you haven't seen it, go back because this process is absolutely critical. So now that I've showed you guys a little bit how I'm preparing this information, on my next live, I'm going to show you how to actually launch these ads now that a lot of that data is actually already prepared. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.